On time. The microphone is still off, so. Okay, welcome. I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight. I'd like to open this town council meeting of Santan Valley, January 7th, 2026. And hope everyone had a good holiday. Everyone, we're back rested and now we'll have a good 2026. We'll have a roll call by Garrett.
Councilmember Hunt.
Present.
Councilmember Jenkins.
Present.
Councilmember Oaks.
Present.
Councilmember Tyler.
Present.
Councilmember Wolford.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hudgens.
Present.
Mayor Smith.
Present.
There is a quorum.
Thank you, Garrett. With that, we'll now proceed to an invocation. This will be offered voluntarily by a representative of a local religious organization to provide a moment of reflection for the council. We will ask and invite Brandon Riffey to come up and provide us with that invocation, and those who would like to participate, please do so.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful to be gathered here together. The objectives of the town council. We're grateful for the season that we've been a part of, the season of giving, and the season of remembrance of those characteristics and attributes of the Savior who we attempt to follow and to emulate. We pray that that might be a constant focus in our lives, in all aspects of our lives. We pray for the leaders of our nation and state that they would continue to find ways to work productively together, reduce the division that often exists. We pray for our local leaders as well, that as they serve and they sacrifice together, and as they listen intently to the needs of their constituents, that the objectives that would be beneficial to individuals and families within our community might be met, and there might be a thriving and growing community. We pray for thy spirit to be with us in this meeting as we tackle the issues that face us, and that they might be addressed in a calm and consultative manner. We pray for these things, Father, and do so in the name of our beloved Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Brandon. We'd like to do a pledge of allegiance. Probably should have done that first, but we're going to do it now. I'll go ahead and start us off. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. This is a discussion, possible action to approve meeting minutes from our December 17th, 2025 regular town council meeting. Is there any discussion from the council? Any discussion or motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of December 17th meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Minutes are approved from our December 17th, 2025 regular town council meeting. Realize maybe I should use this. That might help those in the audience. Next item on our agenda is mayor and council reports. It's a summary of current events. This is just a brief report on current events. This is an informational item only. Council shall not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on the information presented. We will, does anyone have anything to report? Going down the line, Councilmember Hunt.
No, not tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Jenkins.
I do. What I plan to do is I plan to meet with somebody from the Rotary Club in Queen Creek, and they are hoping to get a club started here. So hopefully that'll be a good meeting, and we'll have some constituents that would like to partake in that. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Oaks.
Just at the Combs Cafe. What is that?
that's coming up this, no, on the 22nd. I plan on attending that. Tomorrow night, I'm going to attend for the council, be our representative on the East Valley Community Partnership. I'll be attending that tomorrow night. We'll report back at the next meeting.
Councilmember Tyler. Or Wolford, sorry.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know, next Tuesday, again, the Arizona Association for Economic Development will be holding their annual legislative luncheon over at the Capitol. I'll be attending. And again, I don't know if our town manager, town attorney will be in attendance as well. It'll be a nice opportunity to have some Santan Valley representation with our state leaders and kind of get to know some folks, let them know we're on the block. So.
Councilmember or Vice Mayor Tyler, Hudgens.
I just want to wish everyone a happy new year, Merry Christmas. Hope you guys had a great time as we start off in this new year and start progressing down the road with our town. One thing is the mayor and I are going to be speaking at an event that Goodman's putting together on January 23rd at the school district for our town. If you want to come and hear, ask questions, that'd be a great venue to be able to connect with other nonprofits in the community, residents, and also hear some of the things that we're working through.
Thank you. And I'd just like to bring aware to the community that there's a career expo coming up in April. It's Worlds of Work in Pinal County. And this is something that is put together with businesses and those who would like to be a part of it. It's April 14th. It's at the Central Arizona College. And this is the Signal Peak campus, which is in Coolidge. But what it does is it provides an opportunity for juniors and seniors in high school in Pinal County to go there and to make connections and to hear those who are there for prospective jobs and helping them in the high school format to be able to know what to aspire to in their career coming out of high school. So once again, that's April 14th. At the Central Arizona College in Coolidge from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Okay, with that, we will go to item number 6. And this is a town manager's report. This is informational only, and the council will not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take any legal action to the information that's provided.
Right. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, Happy New Year. So happy to have such a full crowd this evening. I expected it was going to be pretty slim with the weather outside, but we have a full contingent from our neighbor, the town of Queen Creek. They brought everybody out tonight. It's great for them to come out and support us, to support this council and our future success. So I want to say thank you on behalf of the staff for you guys coming out. And of course, their town manager is back there. Bruce, if you'd like to wave. So my cohort from Queen Creek is out there as well this evening, and a very nice man, very knowledgeable. The first thing I wanted to bring up tonight as part of the manager's report is I wanted to make the council as well as the public aware of the Pinal County PENS system. Now, PENS stands for Pinal Emergency Notification System. It is really slick. I have been enrolled in it for a number of years, and it's very helpful in that when you enroll, you get information specific to your location. So not just Santan Valley or Pinal County, but specific to your address and opportunities for notification on your cell phone if there are emergencies, etc. With respect to the county. To enroll, go on the county's website, type in PENS. It's pretty easy to enroll. There's also a video there that's available. I've been checking with folks, and most people aren't aware that PENS exists. So please go on and enroll and reap the benefits of being able to have that system. One of the council members already brought it up, but the J.O. Combs Cafe event, which is a coordination event, is on the 22nd of this month from 9 to 11 a.m. And I believe a number of our council are going to attend, so we'll want to make sure we get that noticed to the clerk with respect to that. Tonight, we have a lease. This is great information. If you looked at the agenda, you saw it on there, and that is the ability for the town to lease our first office space here within the town. It's an exciting time for us. I think it's going to bring us some capacity and the closeness to our county brethren, including Supervisor Goodman. Will be located in this building, just to the west of that wall. So either on the February the 1st or February the 5th, that's undetermined at this point. We'll have a presence in this building, and many thanks go out to the Pinal County Board of Supervisors and their staff for their hospitality and willingness to work with us. We have received an invoice from the Census Bureau to do the population certification. So that's really good news in terms of getting a population number for our state shared revenues. And we got that invoice today, and I believe we're going to pay that tomorrow, and we'll get that process underway. In other good news, we were also notified on Monday of this week from the Arizona Department of Revenue that they have agreed to use the ADOT methodology in terms of disbursement of funds. So we're now going to get not only her funds and vehicle license tax funds, but we're going to start getting our state shared revenues as well as a town. So very exciting to have the funds necessary to start doing some of the things that we need to do. And of course, we wouldn't be in the position we're in now if it were not for our friends at Queen Creek for their assistance. And we very much appreciate it and are indebted to you for all of your help. I wouldn't be sitting here. So thank you so much. We have advertised 6 positions. So if you're interested in working for the town of Santan Valley, please go to the League of Arizona Cities and Towns website. There are 6 positions advertised up there, and that's where we're starting in terms of our staffing to move forward. One of the requests that the council made 2 meetings ago was to get some presentations from Pinal County on future agendas. I'm happy to report, and I think Todd's out there in the room this evening. So Todd is the Deputy Director of Community Development for Pinal County. Pinal County has agreed to come January 21st and give a presentation from the community development perspective in terms of entitlements and planning cases, zoning cases, and what have you happening in the Santan Valley area. And then the Public Works Department is planning to come on February the 18th. So I wanted to get that out to everybody in case folks in the public wanted to attend. And young lady here before the meeting was talking to me about traffic signals. So now you know the date, February the 18th. Very important, and I neglected to say it last time we met, but I think it's even more poignant today. The legislative session starts next week. Commissioner Wolford, Councilmember Wolford stated that next week they're having the AAED session. That's because the session's starting next week, and they're getting out in front of lobbying from the economic development standpoint. So I will start maybe every other council meeting, maybe every council meeting, trying to produce a legislative report for everyone to keep you up to speed. At some point, we should probably have a discussion if one or more of you would like to register as a lobbyist, that we take a ride up to the legislature. Maybe when we're up there next week, we could take you over to the house and log you in, because we will need folks that can sign in on bills and make pushes for things that we think are very important at the state level. Wanted to bring that to your attention. I'll start putting together reports and getting them out to you guys, and also sharing them with the folks in these meetings. But with the start of the new legislative session, it's also the start of all the intergov meetings. So the League of Cities and Town has intergov meetings, Pinal County has intergov meetings, Association of County Supervisors Association. So I'm sure some of you will be contacted with invites to attend those things. At some point, we're going to have to identify who our legislative liaison is going to be for the league. If you haven't done so already, and just get with Alan and I, and we'll set it up. I'm looking to the mayor here to see what kind of guidance that he has to provide. The other thing I wanted to mention this evening is Pinal County has started notifying us of pending planning and zoning cases that will be going to the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the Board of Supervisors. I started getting those emails this week. I went ahead and compiled a memo to the City Council this week, and I've received comments from several of you so far. I appreciate that. And I'll make sure I get that together and I get that to Todd and his crew in terms of our concerns and comments. But Alan and I are working on a follow-up email memo to the council in terms of options to go forward on how we want to handle these types of issues. So with that, that's my report, Mayor. Sorry, it's longer than it should have been.
Very good. And he was right to say meeting, and there's another meeting, and there'll probably be many more. That's what you'll find out when you're on a council. Many meetings, but we welcome them. So it's good information for us to have. Okay, we will now turn to item number 7. This is an intergovernmental introductions and remarks from the town of Queen Creek, and we're appreciative that everyone from the, a majority of the council members are here with us today. This is for them to introduce themselves and to be able to give us some remarks on our intergovernmental goodwill and general partnerships between our municipalities. I'm not sure if there's going to be one or if many of you will get up, but we know the mayor is here of Queen Creek, and we are excited to hear from her. So if you would like to come up, we'll turn the time over to you. And Garrett, is the mic over there on?
Is that working?
I think so.
Sounds good.
Working?
No,
Silly.
I know.
You just have a voice that carries, I think.
I can carry, we can do that.
I'll turn this.
There we go. There we go.
There it is.
Well, good evening, Santan Valley Mayor and Town Council. I've waited a very long time to say that. I am Mayor Julia Wheatley from the town of Queen Creek. So honored to be here with you today. Thank you for the invitation to come and speak before you. And I want to take the time to recognize my council members that are here with me. Like you said, a majority are here this evening. We have Councilmember Oliphant, Councilmember Benning, and Councilmember Brown. And you have met our wonderful town manager, Bruce Gardner. Thank you. Growing up in the East Valley here my entire life and being a resident of Queen Creek for the past 18 years, I've been able to have a front row seat to the efforts of incorporating Santan Valley. And what a ride that has been, but just so enthusiastically supportive to be here this evening. And you may know historically the town of Queen Creek has supported the ability to put incorporation on the ballot 2004, 2010, 2017, 2023. To be able to have that ability for self-determination, and just like we did 37 years ago for the town of Queen Creek. So just want to say congratulations. It's very exciting to be here. As a council, we would love to attend more. We do have meetings the exact same days and the exact same time. So unfortunately, today just happened to work out for us. But I really commend you for stepping into this leadership role. As an elected official, I know firsthand the long hours, the difficult decisions that this job entails, but so incredibly rewarding to be able to give back to a community that you live in and that you love so dearly. And just so excited to have a partner here in the Southeast Valley, and looking forward to the opportunities to truly partner together. That is one of our best assets, is the ability to work together and partner and work alongside of you. And we have a lot of work to do. Transportation, always top of mind for our residents. I know for your residents. So looking forward to having that down at the legislature, lobbying or working between our two communities. Obviously the State Route 24 is top of that list, Pinal Parkway as well. So a lot of opportunities to work together, and just so incredibly enthusiastically happy for this what has been in the works for so long. So congratulations, and I wish you the best success.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the council and for Bruce to be here. We look forward to your relationship with our town manager and working forward with one another. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to continuing our relationship as we grow, even though we are grown to some degree, with, like you said, a lot of transportation needs in our areas and our communities. That is going to be one of our big topics that we'll be having moving forward. So appreciate you guys for being here, and thank you. We'll now move on to item number 8. This is January is recognized as an Anti-Human Trafficking Month. And this is something I think I stand behind, and I'm very passionate about. I would not want to speak for the rest of the council, but I will, because I think they would be behind it too. Tonight, the town of Santan Valley is joining communities across Arizona in taking a public stand against this crime, anti-human trafficking. That's what the crime is. And so with that, I want to read in a proclamation regarding this that I am going to read and I am going to sign. It says it's a proclamation of the mayor of the town of Santan Valley, and it states that we take a stand against human trafficking and declare not in our city. Whereas human trafficking is a global plague that impacts millions of people each year, including tens of thousands of Americans, and whereas the United States ranks as one of the worst countries globally for human trafficking, and whereas Arizona ranks in the top 15 states with the highest rates of human trafficking per capita, and whereas human trafficking impacts people across all demographics and ages, including teenagers and children, and whereas the battle against human trafficking includes supporting efforts in schools, churches, nonprofits, law enforcement, and businesses to prevent human trafficking, intervene, disrupt, and dismantle human trafficking syndicates, and provide resources to and support for victims of human trafficking. Whereas the town of Santan Valley joins schools, churches, nonprofit organizations, law enforcement, federal and state coalitions, and the NotInOurCity.org movement in our commitment to increase public awareness of the human trafficking epidemic that impacts our communities, state, nation, and world. Now, therefore, I, Darren Schneff, Mayor of Town of Santan Valley, do hereby proclaim not in our city. And I call upon our residents, churches, school businesses, and community organizations to work together to eliminate human trafficking from our community and to support the efforts of frontline organizations and law enforcement in their battle against human trafficking. And I'm going to sign this in witness thereof. I hereby set my hand this 7th day of January 2026. Okay. With that, we do have some representatives here in the audience with us today. These are attendees that I think will like to say a word to us, and if they would like to come to the podium, this is Pastor David Wright, the Executive Director, Not in Our Town. Bus Abiami, say my name 3 times real quick.
Okay,
Government Liaison, Not in Our City. Joe Grossman, Government Liaison, Not in Our City. If you guys would like to come up and say a few, is there someone else that I missed? Jason Turner, welcome.
We want to say thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this and to receive this. To hear you make that declaration and that proclamation is profound and powerful. We also just want to say that we celebrate this, what is the beginning of a great new season for the town of Santan Valley. So thanks for letting us be a part of this. I'd like to introduce Pastor Jason Turner, who will actually receive the proclamation on behalf of Not in Our City.
Well, thank you. I appreciate those 3 claps. I'm really moved because the writing of your proclamation and the depths of its tone and verbiage is quite profound. in other cities that we've gone to, it has not been that profound. And it really echoes your sentiment in your heart as it relates to saying, no, this is not going to happen in our city. So I have a few things to read. It won't be long because you really said the majority of it, Mayor. But we just want to say thank you on behalf of Not in Our City. Thank you for this proclamation and for standing publicly against human trafficking. When a city takes a stand, it sends a clear message. Exploitation has no safe place here. It's important that we have a call to action. It's not good enough just to proclaim. We now have to do something. This proclamation is more than words. It represents awareness, prevention, and protection for the vulnerable. Together, faith leaders, city officials, law enforcement, and residents can be part of the solution. We would like to invite everyone that is here to Night of Hope 8. Just last year, we were at the Queen Creek town meeting and inviting everyone then to Night of Hope 7. And every single year, it has grown. It has grown. I was trying to find a deep word, but it has grown. And we now have more than 20, I believe it's more than that, but just for the sake of not, how many? We have 26 cities that have connected with and proclaimed and gave this proclamation as well. So we want to invite the entire community to the Night of Hope 8 on February 22nd, 2026 at 5 p.m. at Pure Heart Church in Glendale. Eventually, we'll bring it on this side of town. But we want to invite you to go to that side of town. It is a free, family-friendly evening of worship, awareness, and hope as we unite to say, not in our city. Thank you.
Can we take a photo with the mayor?
Yeah, I'd just like to add a comment here that this is our first proclamation that we have done as a town. And so this, what a work of God to be able to do this. And we would like to commemorate it with a photograph. So thank you. Grossman, did I introduce you?
You did.
Okay, I just didn't want to leave you out. So if the town, if we could get in the front here.
Great.
Yes, all of us.
Now we're good.
We should probably get on this side. Probably in the middle.
Jason, why don't you stand over?
Maybe we get the pastors next to you.
I have to be in the front of the shorter.
Picture of the.
Right here.
Suck it up.
Suck it in.
Much as I can, right there.
Maybe I'll step up in front.
Yeah,
I'm not blocking anybody.
1, 2, 3.
Not in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You'll send us a copy.
Thanks for being here.
Congratulations, sir.
God bless you. Yeah, I'll take it to my check.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
See you again. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. He's got this back.
Thank you so much as well. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're part of our history now.
Yeah, the very first.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, the first proclamation that the town has ever signed and gone into, and what a worthy cause it is to do so. So we appreciate that. Okay, this will take us to item 9. This is business before the council. I am going to make one change. I'm going to move up the presentation on budget issues. That's item number E to be the first presentation for us today. And that is a presentation by Pat Walker. And I believe, is it Bill? Is he also here too? Okay, just Pat. Who's our town's finance consultant. This is an overview of the interim and tentative budgets, expenditure limits, transaction privilege tax, and other relevant budgetary considerations. And this is this information presentation. We might have a discussion that follows, but no action will be taken this time. And I do believe you have a PowerPoint presentation. So Pat, take it over.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, members of the audience, city staff. Appreciate this opportunity to present this to the town. This is an important season that's starting, the budget season. And we thought it was very timely, talking to your town attorney and your town manager, that this was something that we wanted to bring forward to council sooner than later. Some of you may be familiar with this information I'm providing, but feel free to ask any questions or, stop me along the way. I tend to talk fast, so I'm warning you ahead of time. But I am also on a timeline. I know that, Alan. So I'm going to try to go through these as quick as I can, but provide you the information. Bill was going to be here this evening, but we divided up the presentation because we ended up like 70 slides. So we were like, we're not going to get through all this tonight. And so he's going to be doing the PPC presentation, the investment privilege tax, sales tax presentation on January 21st. But he is listening, so I know he's watching this right now. So
Hello.
okay, so what we're going to be talking about is just the basics of the municipal budget preparation in Arizona. It affects Arizona. We're going to be talking about Arizona state statutes, revenues, that sort of thing. So everything I'm going to be talking about this evening will impact the town of Santan Valley as you move forward in the budgetary process. So again, I want to talk a little bit about the purpose of budgeting, the components of the budget and development of the budget, the revenues and expenditures, and state deadlines for adoption of budget, as well as open it up for questions and discussion. And it's going to sound really simple. Well, we just get the revenues, expenditures, we got a budget, right? It's a lot harder than that, as you all are going to find out as we go through this. The main purpose of a budget is to meet strategic goals of what the town council sets for the community that you serve. That's what we're working towards. It's also an internal control mechanism because, again, like your own personal budgets, if you don't know how much money you have, you don't know how much to spend. And believe me, Arizona state statutes give you guidelines on how much you can spend. So that is part of the reason why you do it. You want to monitor your budget. You want to make sure you're within how much money you can spend, just like your own personal budget. It's probably one of the most important activities that you're going to undertake as a government, because what doesn't touch finance in some way or another? It's all, interrelated. One good thing about Arizona budgets, revenues must equal expenditures. And why do I say that? Well, look at the federal budget, okay? They're not required to be sure. They can go in deficit. You can't when you go forward with an adopted budget. Now, does that mean you got revenues equal expenditures on paper? Yeah, you can do that. But that's why you want realistic revenue projections, realistic expenditure projections, so that you do have your revenues equal expenditures. Bottom line, as I tell all councils that I work with, when you have not a balanced budget, you can do three things. You can increase revenues, you can decrease expense, or a combination. Really, it boils down to those three things. So on a simplistic version, it says, on what basis shall it be decided to allocate X dollars on activity A versus B? And that's the part that's not easy, because you know why? There's always more needs and requests than there are resources. So do I put it towards, administration? Do I put it on parks? Do I put it towards police, fire, whatever the department is? Those are all services that hopefully you'll hear communicated from your citizens as you go into the budget process and know what are the priorities of your community. So components of a budget. So this is the normal component of a budget. There's an operating budget, which is the day-to-day type things that you do on an annual basis, what you're going to have to pay for. You have a capital, which is your long-term. The first year of your budget can be capital purchases, but a longer term can be a capital improvement program, which I'm not going to get in a whole lot in today. And there may be follow-up meetings we're going to have to do, or more detail on things, and I'm more than happy to do that in the future, Bill or I. So we also have something called debt service. That's your principal and interest if you would ever issue debt. There's a big portion, and there is a balance, like your own personal life. You have so much debt, you have so much cash. Cities and towns have to look at it that way too. It's nothing wrong with going into debt. I know a lot of people say, well, we don't want to go into debt. Well, not necessarily, because in a growing community, think about it. There's a whole bunch of people that are going to be coming in still, right? And so if you pay everything in cash, the people that are here today, that's from whatever you collect today. But in the future, you can have people pay for it. So there's a philosophical discussion when you get to debt. But that's a ways off for you guys getting into any of that for now. And then we have contingency. And what that is, you also heard rainy day fund. That is so that if you have an unexpected expenditure or revenue shortfall, you've got a rainy day contingency reserve fund that's usually built into a budget. So a municipal budget by functions, a lot of these won't affect you right now. These are departments that are normally there. As you can see in most municipalities and towns in Arizona, the biggest portion of it is public safety. Now you're going to have contract with your police and your fires on subscription services. So it's, it's going to be buried within your administration or something like that. But still, you're going to have public safety costs within your budget. The other thing that you're not going to have is utilities. You're not going to have debt service right away, but you are going to have departments like general government, economic, community development, cultural and recreation. Those are called functional units. There may be departments, numerous departments within general government, just like town attorney, town clerk, city manager's office, that sort of thing. So again, these are by function, just to kind of give you an overview of what a budget, an average budget looks like in Arizona. So then there's funds, and by state statute, you really only have to have two funds in Arizona. One being a general fund, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on those. The other one is special revenue funds, which is just what they say, special, the special use for those funds. Internal service funds, that's not for Santan Valley at this point. That would be if you want to set up a mechanical maintenance facility to service your fleet and then charge the departments and that sort of thing. That's what internal service fund. Capital projects, not yet, but that's something in the long term I think you want to look at, because whenever you look at a capital improvement plan, you're looking at probably long-term funding, which means could be debt, could be cash, could be impact fees, could be a combination of things. So you want to put together a plan for the future of what you need when it comes to infrastructure and facilities. Enterprise funds, that won't affect you unless you're going to build an airport, or you're going to have, someday you're going to, let's say you're going to have a fire department and you have an ambulance service, that would be an enterprise fund. Those are the type of things. But right now you don't have water and sewer. So that doesn't affect Santan. Fiduciary funds, again, not for Santan. An example of that, if you have a volunteer fire department and they have a fiduciary trust fund, then that would be a fund. So the only funds that you're really going to see right off the bat is general fund and special revenue funds. So the general fund is where revenues can be used for any municipal purpose, and it contains the most departments in the city or town. So some of the revenues that come into that is your taxes, your intergovernmental revenues, state share revenues, your fees for services such as building permit fees and the planning fees, that sort of thing. Fines and charges, you usually see that through the courts. Interest income, what you invest your money in. And there are state statutes regarding everything on investment income and what you can and can't invest in. And then there's always this category called miscellaneous revenues. I try to limit that because I like to identify revenues, and as an accountant or an auditor would always want you to do that. But there is things that kind of fall in that. An example would be, let's say you belong to the risk pool and they give out a dividend for the year. Well, that's something you don't take in every year, so you might want to stick in miscellaneous revenues. That's just an example. Special revenue funds, this is what I said, special. Revenues collected for a specific purpose and are restricted in their use. So examples would be the highway user fund, okay? And that is spent on street-related type expenditures. You can spend it on maintenance of your streets and that sort of thing. And really, over the years, that funds have gone down. And so more and more, it's being sucked up by just maintenance of the roads, not really infrastructure building of the roads. It's just for the maintenance of the roads and everything. There's the Pinal County transportation excise tax funds. That would be special too. You can only spend it on transportation type projects. And then you have grants. You get a federal or state grant that is specific to a purpose that you can spend it on, that you would have to have a special revenue fund so you could track the revenues and expenditures accordingly. So debt service fund, as I mentioned, is principal and interest on bonds. But overall, let's see how fast I'm going here. The budget cycle is a never-ending cycle. And you start with the preparation, and we're talking about it today, and it's really the start of it. In a normal budget cycle, you'd have about 6 months of your revenues in so far that you could start preparing maybe some of your revenue forecasts. Again, you guys have kind of a unique situation with where you started with your state shared revenues and things. Even though you have collected both the VLT, as the manager mentioned, and you collected, and you're going to start collecting the state shared sales tax, and you're going to be you're going to be collecting the state income tax and highway user revenue that you're collecting. So the adoption of the budget, and we'll be talking about that. There's going to be 2 budgets that we're going to be looking at potentially coming to council. One being an interim budget, and that's been an interesting journey as we've worked through the statutes and the different offices of the league and the Auditor General's office and the Economic Estimate Commission. We just got information today on some of that I'm going to be able to, tell you about, which is good news. Well, once you adopt the budget, you have to implement it then. And you have to make sure that you put it into hopefully a system that you have that will track your revenues and your expenditures. And then during the year, you evaluate it. It doesn't mean you're done just because you adopted and implemented it. You have to look at it all the time and say, are we meeting the revenues? Are we spending more than what we thought we were? Do we need to do any transfers, which need to be approved by council? That rainy day fund, do we need to pull any money out of that, for something that came up? And I would say with the town of Santan Valley, I would say you probably have a bigger than normal contingency reserve because of the unknowns that you have, going into this. Then at the end, you have to have an audit by a third-party audit firm. And they come in, and it's required again by statute, and they come in and they don't tell you how you're financially doing. What they do is come in and they audit your financial statements to make sure that you're presenting the financial information correctly to the citizens of your community. So the budget process, you first project out your revenues. As I said, if you don't know how much money you have, you don't know how much you're going to spend. You look at your expenses, and one of the things that I really try to emphasize is you want to look at one time versus ongoing. And what does that mean? Well, if you have a big construction project and you take in a lot of construction sales tax, like when I was at Chandler, we took in an Intel. Well, guess what? That didn't happen every year. And that was a lot of construction sales tax. Had we added bodies or gave raises with that money, we would have been in trouble then down the road. So you really want to look at what is our ongoing expenditures, like payroll, like contracts, that sort of thing, versus one time where we're going to buy equipment or a facility or something like that. So you want to kind of look at those two different types of revenues that come in. The other thing is the fund balances. And what does that mean? That's really just the savings account or carry forward that you have from the prior year. So you take your revenues minus your expenditures, and whatever's left over, you can budget for the next fiscal year. And that will probably happen with Santan Valley this year. You're going to have some carry forward funds you're going to be able to appropriate in your 27 budget. And again, the time period is July 1 through June 30th of the following year. So revenues, again, this is just a overall average of cities and towns of what they take in. And as you can see, the biggest portion is local taxes and fees. That would include, sales tax. That's a big amount of money that comes into all cities and towns. Unfortunately, in Arizona, we are sales tax dependent. I came from Illinois when I was back in Illinois for 7.5 years as accountant, and we lived on property taxes. But that was what you do in the Midwest and the East Coast. Here, there are restrictions on what you can live on. The only portion of property tax is primary property taxes. And it's really a small amount. If you see by the chart, it's like 0% overall in the budget. It's not the biggest part of it, of the budget. Sales tax is. You also have intergovernmental, which I explained, is state shared revenues, which makes up about 33% of your budget. You also have interest. You have fund balances that you use from carry forward. You have grants, and then other services and charges. So the major revenues in general fund, as I mentioned, is sales tax. That is the local sales tax. It is the franchise fees, and that is where you can go out and get a franchise agreement with like APS or Southwest Gas or one of those, and they have the ability to be able to use the town's right of way, and you charge them based on the percentage of their gross sales, and you get that revenue in. It's a 25-year agreement, has to be approved every 25 years by the vote of the people. But again, that's another revenue source. License permits and fees. This is a revenue that comes in, but there's an expense that goes out, because if you can't charge more than what it costs you to provide a service with a fee. Okay. So in other words, if I'm going to charge you a building permit fee, whatever it costs me to prepare that building permit, including, it might be building related fees, a plan review, inspections, everything combined. And there'll be some administrative costs associated with it, but I can't make a profit off of that. I can't charge you more just to bring in more in the general fund. It has to be cost driven. Fines usually through courts, and then we talked about property taxes. So under the local sales tax, it's called the transaction privilege tax. And the reason it's called that is because it's a privilege to do business in Arizona. And so really the business owners are responsible, but they pass it on to the consumer that purchases things, and then they pay. And Bill's going to be going into more detail on this on the 21st when he talks to you. But these are just some of the categories. There's a lot more categories than this, but some of the bigger ones is retail, hotel, motel, restaurant, bar, construction, utilities, rental. Buried within that retail is grocery. They could have a grocery tax. Hotel, motel, there's a transient versus a bed tax. There's a lot of information about transaction taxes that you would need to learn, because you might have different rates for different things. And there's restrictions on the categories too, of what you can and can't do. Mining's not up there, but you're restricted on mining. And construction sales tax, if you have an impact fee, there's restrictions on that. If you have a hotel, motel, and you put a bed tax, there's a little bit restrictions based on population. So there's a lot of information tied in with this just one chart here. So property taxes is divided in Arizona into two rates. One is a primary tax rate that can be used for any municipal purpose, as I mentioned. The secondary rate can only be used for payment of debt service. So if you don't have any debt, you can't issue a secondary property tax. It would just be for the repayment of that debt. So a primary property tax, because you don't have a primary property tax, you'd have to go out to the voters, and you can only do so the third Tuesday in May of any year. There's also a 150-day notice that you give. They say, oh, well, you don't really need to do that, but I don't know of a city or town that's gone out for that they don't give that 150-day notice and start really educating the public on why they need it or what they need it for. There's also a requirement under statutes about new taxing districts on boundaries and that sort of thing, which you're already starting to get the population and that sort of thing. And hopefully the boundaries within Santan Valley. Much education will need to be done. People need to understand what is a primary property tax, how is it calculated, what's the impact on my property, that sort of thing. And then the calculations would have to be done like before you would even consider one, how much money would that bring in to the town? You know, you have to get information about the assessed values and then looking at, you know, what's commercial, what's residential, industrial, that sort of thing. And then you have to develop a maximum allowable tax base. And that's probably the most important thing you'll ever do, because once you develop a tax base, it's there forever. And then they can increase it by 2% every year. And they can add new construction on top of that, but you can't go over the increase of 2% a year on that maximum allowable levy. So that's why that's such an important decision up front when you're going out for that, if you would. Property tax and assessment ratios, I'm just mentioning this. You probably all know when your own taxes come out, you look at your market value and then you have an assessment ratio and it's 10% of the assessment ratio. And then you calculate it by the property tax rate. Well, just to kind of give council a feel for how important legislative action and bills are, the percentage, and if you go back before 24, I mean, it was in the 20s for businesses on assessment ratios. It went to 16.5 and 24. It's going all the way down to 15 in 2027. So that's when I always say, keep your eye on, because that means somebody else is going to pay, because, you know, you still need that money coming in. So how are you going to get that money? So again, I'm not dinging the legislation for doing this, because it was to get business to come in to our state. And so a lot of times these things are based on, well, this will drive business to come into state economic development. Franchise fees, as I mentioned, its permission must be approved by the vote of the people, and usually based on gross sales, 25 years, state shared revenues. I put state shared sales tax to Ye Allen because I know he really was on this big time with them, and I'm very glad to see that AOR is going to be coming through and providing that so needed revenue to you guys. On income tax, again, it's based on 2 years ago collections for income tax, so they won't be able to provide that to you till July of 26. Autaloo, you're receiving that's the VLT, vehicle license tax. That's when you go in and renew your license plates or you get a new car, and you want people to buy new cars as a town because then you can get a higher VLT. Highway user revenue, you're receiving that. Again, this is something that I always try to make clear with councils. A lot of times they think, oh, our highway user revenue is based on price of gasoline. No, it's not. Or, you know, you'd be taking in a lot of money those years the gas went up, right? It's based on the amount of gallons sold. So if you, and it's a really complicated calculation. And so the way it works is that how many gas sales do you do within your county that pertain to your town, and then you get a percentage of that from the state, and it's calculated. It's a really complex formula, but at the end of the day, it's still based on per gallon. And that's what I always like to remind people. If prices go up, that may mean your highway user revenue goes down. And, you know, more electric vehicles, that may mean that you're not seeing as much gas sales and that sort of thing. So, building related fees. Now you got to remember, this is all coming from a finance director perspective. So I'm always into revenues here. Okay. Building related fees, as I mentioned, court fines, fees, recreation, interest income, miscellaneous fees. We've already talked a lot about that. Other financing sources. One thing that you might hear around at different communities, especially some of the growing communities, community facility district bonds. I'm not pushing one way or the other for any of these community facility district bonds. The most I've seen are water and sewer on those. You can do streets or street lighting or something like that. Parks, you normally don't see because usually they want to dedicate that park within a development. That's when a developer You can levy up to like $3.30 per $100 assessed valuation, and whoever lives within that community then would pay that for a community facility district. And then the developer would normally go out and develop the infrastructure, and then the town would reimburse the developer when they dedicated all the infrastructure to you, and then they'd be paying the debt service based on what they collect from the homes that are built within that area. So again, that's just something I'm throwing out there, that it'd be a long time probably before you consider something like that, but I wanted to bring it up. General obligation bonds, that must be approved by the vote of the people. You have to go out because you're going to levy a secondary property tax to pay it back. Excise tax bonds, you don't need to vote of the people, but that was one of the things that you heard in communities. Pension obligation bonds. A lot of communities use excise tax. They back the full backing of whatever sales tax they collect to pay back the bonds. So there's a coverage ratio test and that sort of thing. Highway user revenue bonds, that's gone to the wayside. The coverage ratio increased that nobody ever does anymore. And then we have municipal property corporation bonds, which again, you know, they did this in Chandler when they were working within town. They had to build a reverse osmosis plant, and they're a separate entity, and they pledged the asset towards the repayment of the bonds, and Intel actually funded it. And there's a separate board, municipal property corporation boards. And again, just, these are all just different mechanisms, and we don't have the time to dig into each one really far, but just to kind of, what's your appetite of, hey, I'd like to know more about this, I'd like to know more about that, you know, in the future. Grants, as I mentioned, you know, federal and state grants, and really community development block grants as part of that CDBG. You probably heard that. Expenditures, that's usually finance directors at budget time. Expenditure limitation. Now, we wanted to hit on this one because the 7980, the state legislation decided that there was a city in Arizona, I guarantee you, that had raised property taxes too high, had too much debt, and weren't managing their money. So the state said, well, we'll just limit expenditure limits, how much a city or town can spend in 7980. They found out in 8081, hey, guess what? That didn't work, because we were using a 7980 revenues as the base, and then do an inflationary factor from there. Well, guess what? The Chandlers of the world that implemented, you know, impact fees, system development fees, or grew so fast, and the revenues were a lot higher than what 7980 base was. They could only spend what 7980 base was. So they went out to, they called alternative expenditure limitation. So that you gave you alternatives to be, not to have to be under the state expenditure limitation. One of the most popular for a long time was the home rule. Everybody was home rule. And what's home rule? Well, that's when you're first starting out, and you go out to the voters and you say, this is how much we think our budget is going to be for the next 4 years. And it's just an estimate. You're not locked into that. You don't have to do that, but it's an estimate. But then what becomes your expenditure limitation is what the budget you adopt every year. That's your expenditure limitation then. And in 4 years, you have to go back out to the voters. Well, why is that good? Well, because if you're a growing city, you don't really, a permanent base adjustment is taking the state expenditure limitation and saying, oh, we want to add $1 million to that. And that's our permanent base expenditure limitation. And there's exemptions for that. There's like, you don't have to count grants. You don't have to count bonds. You don't have to count a lot of things in exemptions. But usually it's not enough. You don't have your arms around enough what the revenues are going to be for your community yet to go out for a permanent base and say, this is what we're going to have. You can go back out again if you had to, but the whole idea behind permanent base is that you don't have to go out for election again, okay? And then there's a one-time override, which I hope you never have to do, because that means that usually you've lost the home rule election and you have to do an override, or you'll be under the state expenditure limitation. And that's not a fun thing to do. I've worked with public that it failed, and they called me in, and I said, well, let's do it one time. And the idea behind it was, you know, home rule is local control. You want to be able to spend on your citizens within your community the money you take in your community. And this community took in like $21 million, and they were only able to spend under the state expenditure limitation $1.2 million. What did that mean? That means they just couldn't spend it. They had to hold it over. The only thing they ended up being able to do was issue debt, and because debt, it was excluded. And it's like, well, if that's the only way out, you know, you don't want to do that too sometimes. So anyway, that's why it's important. You don't really want to have to be in a position where you do a one-time override. And how much more time do I have? Let's see.
You're about 18 minutes to go.
Okay, good. I can slow down. So home rule, as I said, election, general election in November 26 and effective in 28. So no matter what, for next fiscal year 27, you will be under the state expenditure limitation, whatever that is. We don't know that yet. The Economic Estimate Commission is waiting for population numbers. Once population numbers come in, then there's a formula that they use on the revenue collected per capita within your county that they'll apply. And so we'll be waiting to hear what that expenditure limitation will be. But 1 year you'll have to live under it. And I'm hoping it's high enough that it won't be an issue at all, that it's going to be high enough. After that, you can make your decision. Okay, well, are we going to go out? We have to make it before then probably, because you need to start going on your home rule if you're going to go in November of 26. You start, doing the notifications, the publications and education and that sort of thing. Any election, I'm sure Alan will tell you this, is you can't promote an election, but you can get facts about an election, as city staff. We can't go out and promote it. So, is that my cue? No. Most flexible for local control. And as I said, spend funds that Santan Valley takes to spend on its citizens. There's no exemptions, which you do get under the state expenditure limitation and the home rule, but then those exemptions, there's a whole list of them in the statute. As I mentioned, a few grants, the bonds, interest income, that sort of thing. And then one-time override. Now, I think that if you went out for a one-time override, you're going to make a turn around and go in the home rule in November. It doesn't make any sense to do that for you guys. Capital budgets, as I mentioned, capital improvement program, you'll probably see that in a lot of cities, multiple year, considerable value. You might have a point, say anything over 50,000 or 100,000 goes into a capital improvement plan. This will be finance pay as you go, grants, borrowing, whatever you want as funding sources in there. And then usually it's a separate document that covers 5 to 10 years, depending on how far you want to go out. To me, that crystal ball gets awful fuzzy after 5 years. You can look out 5 to 10 years in the future, but just know that things are going to change. And from my experience, you put things in a capital improvement program and they don't get done. Usually people aren't happy about that. They want to, why wasn't that park done? Or why wasn't that infrastructure done or that facility done? So you really want to be looking at what you can really accomplish like over the next 5 years. Budgeting in Arizona, keeping it legal. One of the things that we were checking into with the Auditor General's office that we haven't gotten her answer on is when you adopt your regular budget for 27, you're going to have what you call Auditor General budget forms. And this is just a summary. It's required by law. And this becomes what I call your guideline for what you have to, your limitation is. So if you adopted a budget, in this case of $163 million of change, then that's your expenditure limit. This would be a home rule person, okay? I have 163 million. But you're required under state statute that you have to break out in your general fund what departments are going to spend that money, and if you have a contingency reserve. Well, why is that important? Because then that becomes, you can only spend X amount on police department. You can only spend X amount on parks. You can only spend X amount on administration without council approval. Council can transfer funds between departments in the general fund, and departments can transfer within line items because we don't break it out by line items on the budget, or that really restricts you how much you could spend in the department. But if I want to spend more on administration than another like parks, then I would have to come to council and say, I'm going to transfer money from contingency reserve, or I want to transfer it from another department. And so that's what the Auditor General forms are, to tell the public what's your expenditure limitation, where you're going to spend it. When you get to some of the other funds, like the grant funds, you can just have grant, because you don't know what grants you may get. So you can have an appropriation for grant, and you've got pretty flexibility within the grant fund to move money around. However, council will have to approve any grant request and awards. So, council's involved in all of that, all on the way. These are just important budget related statutes. This is just one I throw up there because a lot of times people forget this one. This is 9-49915. And this is if you're going to propose any municipal taxes, fees, notification required, you have to do a 60-day notice before the date. And there's a lot of information in there that you have to provide, like the cash flow analysis, what you think the fee, what you're estimating to be. It can be pretty general because you really don't know at that point. But the important point of that is they want the public to know that you're considering something. You don't have to act on it, but 60 days before you would do any action on it, they want to know, the public wants to know, and you're required to post notice on it, which you would do anyway. Bonds, again, this is just, talking about the long-term financing, general obligation bonds. Yes, you have to go out for election, municipal property corporation bonds, no, community facility, no excise tax bonds, no. Establishment of a primary property tax, yes. Alternative expenditure limitation, yes. Permanent base, yes. One-time override. Now, I don't expect anybody to read this. My whole point on this slide is that the league puts out a budget and finance manual. And it is a very good manual. And the reason that I really think it's something that somebody should read, if the council, staff, anybody, because it talks about all the revenue sources in the state. And then the great part about it is that it's got a statute link, and you click on it and you go right to the statute. So you can see the statute that it's related to, but in layman terms, in the budget manual. And they talk about audits, they talk about purchasing, they talk about everything in this budget and finance manual. And so one of the things they do is they give out a budget deadline required by statute. Well, that's great. And Belshie and I and Branscombe have worked together many times because I've helped them with the budget manual. And I said, you know, that's great, but that's not a realistic budget calendar. That just tells you what the legal requirements are. And yeah, you have to adopt a tentative budget by the third Monday in July. Well, guess what? When does your fiscal year start? July 1? But by law, you don't have to adopt it till third Monday. Well, you're not going to do that. You're going to get it adopted before July 1. And then there's a whole bunch of steps ahead of that before you do that. You've got your tentative budget that must be adopted. But if you have a property tax, then you have to adopt the final budget, and there's steps in between that you have to do 2 weeks, notifying the public through publishing in a newspaper. But that's the law. You have to publish 2 weeks, your auditor general forms, and then you have your final budget public hearing. And then you have, if you have a property tax, you have to wait 14 days after that to adopt that. But the property tax must be adopted by the third Monday in August, 14 days after final budget adoption. I'm sure with Canal County sitting here, they will tell you, don't wait that long if you're going to adopt the property tax, because they have to get it on their rolls. They have to go through the Board of Supervisors. They have to get it on their rolls. So even though the state statute says third Monday in July, have it done by July, you know, so that you can get that information to the counties. And then, as I mentioned, various restrictions on times, impact fees, for if we haven't gone into a lot of impact fees, that'd be another time. So the good news about the interim budget is what we heard today from the EEC is that you're not under any expenditure limitation. They said that they don't, that, you know, with a newly incorporated city or town, you're not under expenditure limitation, at least until the end of June. Okay, so that's good news. The part that we haven't heard yet was, do we need to do auditor general forms? Do we need to do an audit, you know, when we're done with the year? I haven't heard from the Auditor General's office, but there's nothing in the statute that I see, and I'm not an attorney and I'm not trying to be one, Alan, that I saw that stated you had to have use Auditor General forms. And every place else where you have to adopt a budget, you do that 2 week publication and all that. And the statute associated with the newly incorporated town doesn't say that. So I'm waiting for an answer on that, so we know what we're getting into as we move forward with an interim budget. And then also with the requirements of, you must publish on the city town website 7 business days after adoption, and they must remain posted for 60 months. That would be on a tentative and final. But again, that would not be on an interim. That would be on the one we're looking at for fiscal year 27. Okay. And then just a summary of the interim budget adoption. You can adopt an interim budget by ordinance. That's all. You shall hold 2 public hearings. It says you shall hold public hearings, but it's got an S after it. And so we recommend having 2 public hearings. At least if council wants more, they can do more. And I said, we're checking with Auditor General, checking if audit will be required. And then, but we got an answer today that the EEC says we don't need an expenditure limitation for the interim budget. That's my presentation for this evening. So I'll open it up to any questions that the council would have.
Thank you, Pat. Just for the community, that was just an overview. If we let Pat loose, we'd be here through the weekend, I'm sure, getting into the weeds and the details of everything when it comes to a budget. It's a big tamale, and there's a lot there. So going to the council, is there any discussion, any questions?
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I understand it correctly, because I pulled the expenditure limitations for city and towns for 25, 26. So basically, we don't have to file one for this year.
Interim budget, right?
Right.
I kept
So
the email
then,
from the EEC.
and that's what you're saying is that we'll have to do it. We'll be on this listing for the next fiscal year, and then that's when that limitation will be set And it'll be based on the ARS statute 41563, right? Because we don't have any 7980 data.
That's why the EEC.
Right, is gonna do it. And it's gonna take the population at that time. And then, so it's gonna be very unique, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and
This
that's
whole
why-
thing, it's
Yeah.
gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, understand it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? We'll probably have a lot going forward in the future, I'm sure, Pat. So thank you. Thank you for being here. We look forward to Bill coming in and giving us the rest of the presentation. I guess that's in our next meeting, our next council meeting. So look forward to that, public. So thank you. We appreciate it. Wait, I guess we did. We have.
Just want to confirm, Pat, on the 10th and 11th of February, you'll be giving presentations on budgeting with the league,
Yes.
correct?
I'm
Okay.
doing
So
a
definitely put
budget,
that out there.
municipal budget, understanding the budget. It's from 9 to 3. So I do 2 separate classes because I usually get more than 60 people sign up for it because I go over any legislative changes, the budget process in more detail. I do exercises and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Great, awesome. So there is definitely more.
You can join anytime. Yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Councilmember Wolfert. Okay, we appreciate that presentation. Thank you for putting that together.
Thank you.
We will now move to item number A, consideration possible approval of resolution number 2026-01, approval approving a lease agreement with Pinal County for municipal office space. This is the lease agreement between the two entities for municipal office space located at 31505 North Schnepp Road, Santan Valley, Arizona, and authorizing the mayor to execute the lease and related documents on behalf of the town. Is there any discussion or is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution 2026-01, authorizing town to enter into a lease agreement with Brown County for municipal office space as presented and authorized the mayor to execute the agreement and resolution on behalf of the town.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that'll take us to item number B, consideration and possible approval of resolution number 2026-02, approving an intergovernmental agreement for election services with Pinal County. This is an agreement for election services between the two entities, town of Santan Valley and Pinal County, and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement on behalf of the town. Is there any discussion from the council or is there a motion? Any discussion?
I move to adopt resolution number 2026-02, approving an intergovernmental agreement with Pinal County for municipal election services and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement on behalf of the town.
Okay, we have a motion on the table by Councilmember Wolfert. Is there a second? We have a second by Councilmember Tyler. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is item number C. This is a consideration and possible approval of interim ESI contract for town clerk services. This is a approval, possible action of an interim cost agreement with, it's called Educational Services LLC or ESI for the provision of town clerk services effective January 14th, 2026 through April 15th, 2026, or until such time as a long-term town clerk is engaged. Any discussion on this item? Any at all? Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve interim services agreement with Educational Services LLC for the provision of town clerk services, including a cost agreement through ESI in an amount not to exceed $17,700 for the period of January 14th, 2026 through April 15th, 2026, and to authorize the mayor to execute the cost agreement and any related documents on behalf of the town.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the list is consideration and possible approval of resolution number 2026-03, establishing interim purchasing authority and procedures. This is for discussion or possible action to adopt a resolution which authorizes the town manager to approve certain purchases up to $75,000, establish initial procurement procedures for certain purchases, and provide for alternate methods for professional services, cooperative purchasing, and emergency or sole source procurements. Is there any discussion from the council on item number D? Any at all? Is there a motion?
I move to adopt the resolution number 2026-03, establishing interim purchasing authority for the town manager and interim procurement procedures for town purchases.
Council member Jenkins has made a motion to approve. Is there a second? Council member Wolford seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, that brings us to the end of the business before the council. We will now go to item number 10, which is a request for future agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the town council to request an item to be placed on a future agenda. No discussion or action will be taken at this time or other identifying topics for future consideration in accordance with Arizona open meeting law. Does any of the council member have any future agenda item requests? Any at all? Okay, hearing none. We will go now to item number 11. This will be called to the public. Citizens desiring to speak on any issue within the jurisdiction of the town may do so at this time. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person, subject to adjustment based on time constraints or meeting management needs at the discretion of the mayor. All comments shall be addressed to the council as a whole. At the conclusion of the call to public, individual council members may, 1, respond to criticism made by those who have spoken, 2, direct staff to review or follow up on the matter, and or 3, request that the matter be placed on a future agenda item. I do have 1 speaker card in front of me, and unlike last meeting, Jeannie Stockton will be number 1 on our list. So Ms. Stockton, if you'd please approach and just indicate that you do live within the town boundaries or not.
I'm going to talk fast. I live within the town boundaries, and I think your tie's nice. PCSO has been involved in TV shows, and we have Garrett representing Men in Black tonight. Thank you. I hope your eyes heal. When the ordinances for the town are being rewritten, I would like consideration to be made towards extending the distances from the proposed rezoning area to a larger area. Expanding the area of notification will ensure that a larger group of affected residents are able to provide input. Not sure if it's currently 250 feet or if it's 400 feet. But we found in the last opposition thing I was involved with, there were a lot of people that were affected that weren't allowed to give input. I would also like to suggest that special consideration be made when zoning changes are proposed in areas that have a high number of traffic fatalities, accidents, injuries, etc. A traffic study needs to be completed that clearly articulates how the increased number of residents will be impacted, not only at that intersection and roadways, but all intersection and roadways within 1 or 2 miles. Until the town is able to implement changes that would relieve traffic congestion, I know you're working hard on that, Mr. Billingsley, or reduce rollover and fatal accidents, the extended area of notification would remain in place or until all the property in that area has been built out. Reducing rollover or deadly accidents will not happen by turning a blind eye or pointing a finger in another direction. But the town needs to step up and implement changes as soon as practical to move towards a long-term improvement and potentially saving lives. Additionally, I would like to see the town more involved in the notification process for rezoning. During a recent rezoning project, there were several letters returned from the county with insufficient addresses. So the information that's on the parcels aren't accurate. The address on one parcel simply stated Scottsdale, Arizona, had no street address or anything. It happened to be a parcel owned by Johnson Ranch, so I took it up with the Johnson Ranch HOA, and they got all of their addresses corrected on the county parcels. But there's a big problem there. I don't think we should turn a blind eye to anything that is affecting the health and welfare of our community. So I'm begging you guys to take a deep look at how we can encompass changes that will perhaps save lives and property damage. Also, the League of Arizona Towns and Cities needs to update their page to provide contact information for the election. I noticed that Santan Valley wasn't listed on there at all. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Appreciate that. Okay, I don't have any cards. If there's anyone in the audience, and I see one in the back, if you'd like to come forward, you have 3 minutes, and please state your name and if you live in the boundary of Santan Valley.
Yes, sir. I'm Clint Frisbee from Frisbee Field, live over by Santan Mountains. I'll make this short and sweet. I just, I seen you guys talk about boundaries and stuff, and what I wanted to follow up on is the Santan Valley plan on putting a sign and introduction. I think it's important for people traveling or just returning home. I also think it's important to make a statement on who we are. I would like to suggest a slogan for Santan Valley that gives us a memory that brings us home again and again. Welcome to Santan Valley, home of sunshine and sunsets. I think that'll stick, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Thank you for your input. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come forward and have any comment? Anyone at all? Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, I will close the public comment section. I would like to ask the manager if we could put on a future agenda item discussion on what we just heard about a slogan or what the town stands for and represents. Something I think we discussed in passing, but maybe put it on the agenda that we could talk about in further detail. So, okay.
Could we also add to a future agenda what Channel County Sheriff's Office is doing to, resolve issues in high crash, high incident areas? What's their plan? What are they doing right now to prevent?
I think that would be in conjunction with our first public comment from Ms. Stockton. Okay, any other council members? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. Now we are going to item number 12. This will be executive session. The town council may vote to convene into executive session for the following items. And we have one on the agenda. That's A, discussion, consideration of employment, assignment, appointment, and contract terms, including interview of prospective candidate for the position of town clerk pursuant to ARS 38-431.03 A1 and A3. Is there a motion? Motion to go into executive session.
Mayor, I move that we convene into executive session.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. 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 We ayes have it. We are now in executive session. I will make a note to the public that after executive session, we are coming back into regular council, but we have no further items on the agenda. So